Welcome back to the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Circlebark Purtle, here with the coast today, Aaron. Guns and Aaron.
Hi.
Alright, so in this video, we'll be taking a look at all 32 teams in the NFL and making our determinations on where we think each team falls in the NFL hierarchy, ranking them on a tier list, with the top of the tier list being Super Bowl contenders, and the bottom of the tier list being planning for next season. We'll take a look at each team, kind of go back to our season predictions for each franchise, and then determine from there.
If you like our content, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let us know what you think.
Yep, your subscription means a lot, as we're on our way to 250 subscribers. So please help us reach that goal, if you feel like coming back to the channel. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so here we have our tier lists. Up here at the top, we have our Super Bowl contender tier, then our playoff contender tier, then our on the fringe tier, then our chasing 500 tier, and then our planning for next season tier. I feel like they're all pretty self-explanatory, but quick explanation. Top one, obviously the best teams in the league. Second one, teams we think should comfortably make the playoffs and maybe even make a run towards the conference championship game. On the fringe, that's kind of the teams that we think could maybe make the playoffs, could also miss the playoffs right around that 500 spot, maybe a couple games above 500. And then we got the chasing 500 tier, obviously the teams that are probably going to finish right below 500, but maybe their ceiling's 9-8 or something like that. And then obviously planning for next season, worst teams in the league, ones that should probably already start looking at the 2025 NFL draft, if we're being honest. So we can go ahead and get started with our first team down here. That's the go ahead.
Super Bowl.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that took me a second to understand what you were saying. But yeah, starting off with the back-to-back Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I think it's safe to say they are in the Super Bowl contender tier. Barring any injury to their top three players, it's definitely their top player. They're going to be one of the best teams in the league, obviously. Best quarterback in the league, arguably best coach in the league, best tight end in the league. And then slowly have gotten the best defense, or not the best defense, has slowly built one of the best defenses in the league as well to play opposite Patrick Mahomes and company. So, yeah, I don't really think you can have them anywhere else but amongst the top of the NFL tier list.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl! Next we got the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously last year the Raiders kind of made an effort to sneak into the playoffs there towards the end of the season, gave the Chiefs a run for their money to an extent. I mean, they did beat us on Christmas Day, but outside of that, a whole lot of nothing in the first half of the season before Antonio Pierce took over. Looking to hopefully flip the script a little bit and maybe get back to a 500 or better team. And that's kind of what I see happening with them, I think. I've got them in the, not the on the fringe, because I think there's going to be too many good teams in the AFC for them to compete for a playoff spot outside of winning the division, which is not going to happen. So I've got them in the chasing 500 tier, I think. I think they should probably finish somewhere between 7 and 9 wins. Maybe at worst 6, but I'm fairly high on that defense. I just don't think that offense is going to be able to overcome some of the deficiencies they have.
I don't know where you see this team getting 8 wins comes from. I think this team's garbage, and they're going to be looking to ship some of their best players out by the trade deadline. I see them in looking for next season. So
Yeah, I mean, so my theory with the Raiders, right? They play in the AFC West. 4 of those wins, these next 2 teams we're about to talk about right here. So that's half of 8. You play a couple more bad teams, all of a sudden, boom, 8 and 9.
you think they sweep both the Chargers and the Broncos?
I think they got a good chance, yeah. Gardner Minshew last
Good
year.
chance.
Gardner Minshew last year on a team with a much worse defense than this was able to get their team to 9-8. So,
in a much better offense.
in a much better division. The Jaguars and Texans last year are better than the Broncos and Chargers. Of course, you have the Chiefs, but you pencil in those two losses, and then you get the.
I don't know. I'm not sold on them sweeping both.
We'll see. We'll see. Speaking of the Broncos, last season, in the the short-lived Russell Wilson era, albeit, looking to turn over a new leaf with rookie quarterback Bo Nix, who's looked pretty good in preseason. So hopefully he's the starter and not Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson, because if either of those two start, then, well, regardless, I've got them in planning for next season. But if one of those other two guys outside of Bo Nix start, then it's going to be a real rough year.
I think no matter who starts, it's going to be a real rough year, despite Bo Nix's lot of college experience, I guess you would say. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. Planning for next season, they just don't have a lot of offensive weapons.
Yeah, I mean, so when I say I don't think record-wise it's probably going to matter much who the quarterback is. I do think they've got a higher ceiling with Bo Nix under center, in my opinion. But at least with Bo Nix playing, you get a little bit of NFL experience under your belt. As long as they stress to him that there's no pressure there, I think he should be fine with that. Now, if they, put him under center and they're like, all right, let's go win the division, probably not going to go so well. Confidence is probably going to take a major hit when you end up going 4-13. But, yeah, I think Bo Nix, seeing some individual growth from him is really all they can hope for this year in Denver. So, and I expect that to happen if he gets to start. Next, we got the Los Angeles Chargers. Last year, Justin Herbert went down with injury, and the Chargers missed out on the playoffs after an embarrassing loss the year before to the Jacksonville Jaguars after giving up a 3-4 touchdown lead, whatever it was. So brought in new head coach Jim Harbaugh to hopefully turn things around there in LA, but I just think it's going to be a little too early. I don't think we're really going to see much of the fruits of Harbaugh's labor this season. Exactly, maybe towards the end, but definitely it's going to be a rough start for sure, because that roster's just got a lot of holes, specifically on the offensive side. Receiver room is really, really shallow. Your best receiver is probably going to be a rookie, Ladd McConkey. You brought in a couple of injury-prone running backs from Baltimore. And Justin Herbert, he's coming off injury himself. So defense is getting old. So I've got y'all in planning for next season, but this is the first year in a rebuilding phase under Jim Harbaugh, so I expect good things in the future. I think Herbert's going to be fine. Give it a year or two, and I think you'll be right back up in the hunt.
Yeah, I wouldn't be super surprised if they somehow manage to get into the chasing 500-ish area, just with how good their defense should be, and Justin Herbert's talent is it's up there as far as NFL quarterbacks go. It's just kind of a question of who he's got around him.
Yeah,
and it's not a lot this year, so I think I agree with you. And this looks like a terrible division.
Yeah. I mean, it should be really fun for us. Just kind of coasting our way through the regular season as we have been able to do the last few seasons, and getting into the playoffs with minor scarring, maybe. So yeah, Chiefs should run away with it. We said that in the video. Next, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year trying this year to absolve some sins of last year's past, where they started off rough, and then They started off rough, and then Lawrence got injured, and then there was really no hope for the Jaguars after that. They ended up losing the division to a young Texans team with a rookie quarterback and C.J. Stroud, and this year they're looking to, get right back into the playoffs and maybe even win another playoff game, as they did last time they were there. So I've got the Jaguars on the fringe, I think. I could see them just missing out on the playoffs. I could definitely see them making the playoffs if the Texans, take a little bit of a step back and their head coach and starting quarterbacks sophomore seasons have a little bit of a sophomore slump collectively. I could see them maybe even coming away with the division title. But I think they're definitely going to be in the wild card hunt. And if Trevor Lawrence can stay healthy, with the addition of Brian Thomas Jr. on the outside, I do expect that offense to be pretty good. The defense is where I have questions. So, if that defense can be anything significant, then they should have a pretty good year.
Yeah, this Jaguars team, it's a young team, so it'll be kind of fun and interesting to watch how they kind of grow. Especially Brian Thomas Jr., kind of how he progresses throughout the season, and his connection with Trevor Lawrence. So I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in playoff contenders, but I don't really expect them to win their division. I think we kind of both expect the Texans to take that. So I agree with on the fringe.
Here's we got the Indianapolis Colts. Last year the Colts suffered a blow at their starting quarterback position when rookie QB Anthony Richardson went down with injury that ended his season in the first half of the year. Looking to, come back and maybe prove all the doubters wrong, show why he was drafted 5th overall a couple of seasons ago. Gave Michael Pittman Jr. a nice new contract. Hopefully he continues to take another step forward in his role as number 1 receiver for that team. Jonathan Taylor got his contract settled finally, so he should be comfortable and willing to work for the Colts. I have a really good offensive-minded head coach in Shane Steichen, so I really like what the Colts have. I just don't think they quite have enough to compete for a playoff spot this season, unless everything goes right. Like, if everything goes right, their ceiling 9-8, maybe even 10-7, but I expect some hiccups along the way. That defense, outside of adding Laiatu Latu, not a whole lot of improvement, and Anthony Richardson's basically in his rookie season, so really raw talent, obviously. So I've got them in chasing 500, but I could see them fighting for an on the fringe spot by season's end for sure.
Yeah, I think a big key point for this Colts team is obviously keeping Anthony Richardson healthy and having him develop throughout the season, and then kind of seeing how all those offensive pieces around him that are seemingly really good, how they gel and mesh, because he's not your traditional, pocket passing quarterback. He's very mobile, so I would probably lean towards chasing 500 this season. They got a promising, little core that they've got going on there, but I don't think they're quite there yet.
Next, we got the Houston Texans. Obviously, last year was kind of a surprise to everybody when the Texans came out, won the AFC South. C.J. Stroud won Rookie of the Year, which that part wasn't too awful surprising. But the way the Texans were able to march into the playoffs and then win a playoff game in Stroud and D'Amico Ryan's first season, as at their respective positions, really, really impressive. And then they went out and added to that impressive roster that they were already constructing, bringing in Stephon Diggs at the wide receiver position, bringing in Joe Mixon at the running back position, bringing in Danielle Hunter at edge rusher. So I think the sky's the limit for this Texans team. I know I have them as the first seed in the AFC, which is probably a little premature. but I do have them losing in their first game after that first round bye. So I think it's safe to say to put them in playoff contenders. I think it may be a little bit early to put them in Super Bowl contenders. However, man, I really want to.
Yeah, I think they've got all the talent in the world on that offensive side of the ball, and it'll be an explosive offense and one to definitely keep an eye on. But I'm not 100% sold on the defense. I could see them maybe struggling to get some sacks. Will Anderson had a bit of a slow start to his career last year, especially beginning of the season, but he kind of started coming around towards the end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see where he picks up this year. But I think their defense is probably the only thing holding them back from being in Super Bowl contenders.
I can see that. I mean, a lot of new faces too on that defense, losing their tackle leader in Blake Cashman, bringing in a new guy, Aziz Al-Shaair, to replace him. However, Aziz Al-Shaair has been incredible the last few seasons. Last year, I think he was damn near close to leading the NFL in tackles. So, yeah, I mean, I expect that defense to actually take a step forward this year personally. Will Anderson, he may have gotten off to a slow start last year, but he did end up winning Rookie of the Year in the AFC, Defensive Rookie of the Year in the AFC. So I expect him to build upon that. Danielle Hunter, opposite side him, should also help. So yeah, I think this defense is going to be improved, and then the offense obviously should be explosive with all living help. So let's look at the Titans. Last year, decided to mid-season move on from Ryan Tannehill, plug Will Levis, Mayo Man, in under center. And he showed flashes here and there. Definitely has the arm talent, but maybe needs to work on his decision-making a little bit. Also doesn't help that he had probably the worst offensive line in the league, if not bottom 5. So you hope that maybe they can do a little bit more to protect him this year. Obviously, he's got a pretty damn good receiving room with the additions of Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd to go alongside DeAndre Hopkins. But the running back position, obviously taking a step back. Derrick Henry out the door, bringing in Tony Pollard, completely different dynamic, completely different running style. I don't know how that's going to work, if that's going to mesh well. But, yeah, I just don't see the Titans... Even though that defense should be probably much better than it was last year. I mean, you brought over L'Jarius Sneed, brought over Chidobe Awuzie, so the secondary at least should be much better. But I just don't know if you're going to be able to compete with the other teams in the AFC. And with that being said, I think I've got you in chasing 500 barely, actually. Maybe a ceiling of like 8 wins, 9 wins possibly. But I could also see you only winning 4. So it really kind of depends how good Will Levis actually is, I think. If he's legit, I think you could win 7, 8, maybe even 9 games. If not, he may struggle to win 5. So
I think Tennessee could low-key be a dark horse team this year.
You said that.
Experienced receiving core, solid running backs, seemingly a solid defense, some new names there, see how well they mesh, but I think it all comes down to Will Levis. Gotta get the ball out of his hands faster. I think that was probably part of the reason that their offensive line struggled so much last year, is he just held on to the ball too long a lot. So I would probably put them in chasing 500, but if he shows a significant step in the right direction, then I wouldn't be surprised if they were a fringe team.
If Will Levis is who I think he can be, then yeah, I think on the fringe, they could maybe even be the second best team in the division. So fighting with the Jaguars potentially if they have another disappointing year. Although Mac Jones looks really nice down in Jacksonville, so maybe Trevor Lawrence.
Getting out of that dumpster fire that New England's in
Yeah.
right now.
Maybe they
He
decided
actually
to
looks
move
like a
on.
half decent quarterback.
Maybe they decided to move on from Trevor Lawrence down in Duval. Yeah.
No.
After just making him the highest paid quarterback. Next, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. Last year, obviously disappointing end to what was a promising season to start off the year. Joe Burrow gets hurt, and boom, all of a sudden your season's over. So, stinks for them. Obviously, this year, with Burrow coming back, they should have higher expectations. And I think I've got them in Super Bowl contenders. I don't even have them win the division, but I do think that when playoffs hit, they're just going to find a way to win some of these games. They're going to meet the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and they're going to lose. But they made it that far. So, yeah, Super Bowl contender.
I would put them in playoff contenders. I don't think they're better than the Texans, so I couldn't justify putting them in Super Bowl contenders. Joe Burrow, very good quarterback. If they couldn't get it done with, the last couple teams that they've had, with that receiving core being absolutely out of this world, I don't see how they get it done with, losing Tyler Boyd. But granted, they bring in Mike Gesicki. I don't think their O-line's super great. So that's another thing. And then, again, a lot of questions on defense, a lot of new names in there. So I think they are good. I think I bet on them making the playoffs, but I don't know that I necessarily bet on them being a Super Bowl contender.
Do I sound fine?
Yeah.
Was there ever any issues?
Not that I noticed.
Okay. My thing on the Streamlabs was freaking me out. You said playoff contenders, right?
Huh?
You said
contenders, yeah. Playoff contenders, yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and their running back, I think, is going to be worse with Moss instead of Mixon. Lose Tyler Boyd. Defense probably going to take a step back as well. Offensive line might be a little bit better, though, which is kind of what I'm banking on, is giving Joe Burrow a little bit more time. Hopefully Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are enough, and then adding Mike Gesicki to kind of be that third option. But I definitely see where you're coming from. This roster is not quite as good as it has been in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised if they look a little less than they have been. Next, we got the Cleveland Browns. Last year, the Browns were able to make the playoffs with backup quarterback Joe Flacco, who they added to the roster halfway through the season, thanks to an incredible defense and running game that they probably plan on leading on once again this next season. A lot of this kind of depends on where Nick Chubb's going to be. Is he going to be 100%? Is he going to be 50%? Is he not going to play at all? Like, if Nick Chubb is back to the old Nick Chubb, I think they're a playoff contender. But I don't know that we can rely on that after yet another devastating injury to his lower half. And I have absolutely zero faith in Deshaun Watson at this point. However, that defense is enough for me to put them on the fringe, so that's where I think I'll put them.
Yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they'll win a playoff game. because I don't think they'll win their division, so they won't, get that favorable matchup. So I think, despite improvements at wide receiver, I'd probably put them on the fringe.
Yeah.
Partly because of Deshaun Watson's, questionable play, but also just because the AFC is super deep.
And that division itself
and-
alone, yeah.
In that division itself. So if we've got them, second or if we got them third in their division, I think that's tough to have them making the playoffs, making a deep playoff. So I've got them on the fringe.
Yeah, I mean, they could. If man, I've been saying this a lot. If Deshaun Watson can find any semblance of the play he put up in Houston, it's a different story altogether. But he looks like a completely different quarterback. It's just, I don't know. I would say it's like when Mike Vick played for the Eagles, but it's not even that good. Like, Mike Vick was at least decent for a little bit with Philadelphia. Deshaun hasn't even been that, so I just don't have a whole lot of hope there. Next, we got the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, last year they were the #1 team in the AFC. Ended up getting that first round bye, beat the Texans in the second round, and then lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, the almighty Chiefs, in the conference championship game, where they just, decided to completely abandon the game plan that had got them there in the first place. They decided to try to make Lamar Jackson Peyton Manning instead of Lamar Jackson. So that did not go well for the Ravens. They ended up losing, and now look to come into the season with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, maybe a little bit of a vengeance in their heart as well. So I've got them as Super Bowl contenders. I mean, well, actually, hang on. Do I have them as Super Bowl contenders? Yeah, I have them as Super Bowl
The
contenders.
Ravens even better.
I do. Yeah, I have them as Super Bowl. Well, it was either Super Bowl or playoff, obviously, but I think I have them as Super Bowl contenders. My whole concern, Aaron, and this is why I contemplated just putting them in playoff contenders.
Is Lamar Jackson's playoff play?
Not just his, just the whole team whenever he's quarterback. In general, these last 5 seasons, they make the playoffs, and then they're the Cowboys. They're the AFC version of the Cowboys. Except they actually made a conference championship game finally. But before that, it was almost, mirror image. So I'll put them in Super Bowl contenders. I do think they're going to be the #2 seed in the AFC, possibly even #1. I would love to see Lamar Jackson win a playoff game against somebody who's not a rookie quarterback, or Phillip Rivers in his last season as a Charger.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm going to throw them in Super Bowl contenders because that defense is elite. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that's going to be a absolutely disgusting combo. But
sure.
Again, as I've been saying for like the past 3-5 years, since they've had Lamar Jackson, really, where is that receiver room? It's like they refuse to get him any help. I mean, they got Zay Flowers, but it's easy to, cover a good receiver and a good tight end. Teams did it to the Chiefs last year, and they struggled offensively.
Wow.
So
we didn't have anybody Zay Flowers, Cal. Well, Rashee Rice maybe by the end of the year, but Zay Flowers had a much better start.
what I'm saying is they've got one receiver and one tight end to worry about.
Yeah.
And
last year they had OBJ.
That can be well. They had him last year, and they still couldn't get it done. Yeah. So I don't know who he's gonna throw to other than those two.
Well, and that's if Mark Andrews can stay healthy, which seems like it's harder to do the older he gets. Um, Last year, I think, was more of a freak injury type deal, but he's no spring chicken either. I mean, neither Travis Kelce, obviously, but he's not as physical. I feel like he's not as physical as Mark Andrews is either. So
Doesn't have the injury history Mark Andrews has either.
that too. Next, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last year, the Steelers were able to sneak into the playoffs as a 7 seed when they probably wish they had not done so. Once again, Mike Tomlin gets the Steelers a mid-round pick when they probably wish they had a top 10 pick. But thanks to that, he got a contract extension, so that's awesome for him. Decided to completely change up the quarterback room, kicking both of their 2 guys out, bringing 2 new guys in. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. We'll see who starts and who ends the season. I think Russ is pretty much tabbed as the starter for opening day now. But that could easily change as soon as week 2. So, yeah, I just don't know how much to expect out of that offense. Russell Wilson kind of burned, or kind of, Russell Wilson's kind of cooked. He's kind of flamed out at this point, I think. Justin Fields seems like he's still a little too raw. So unless that defense can, pull another miracle out of their ass, I think I've still got them on the fringe, though. Now that I think I do, because I think I could see them winning 10 games. I mean, the quarterback plays improved, and they won 9 last year. So, yeah, I think I'll put them on the fringe because that defense is
Theoretically, the quarterback play is improved.
But dude, it can't be much worse than that.
It can't be. I agree. Whoever they decide to go with, whether it's Russell Wilson, the whole season, Justin Fields the whole season, some combination of the two, it can't get much worse than the last 3 years. So.
Yeah,
I'm with you there, but again, I don't think. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is the heart and soul of that Ravens team. I don't think the Steelers have that, and I have the same concerns with the Ravens that I do with the Steelers. With George Pickens and Freiermuth being really the only people to throw to. Then you throw in a much worse offensive line than the Ravens have, or an offensive line with much more question marks than the Ravens have. I personally would put them in chasing 500.
I think that's probably fair. I was gonna do that, but I didn't want to. They've got the lowest floor, I think, out of every team in the AFC North.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's close between them and the Browns, I think.
Yeah.
Because if Myles Garrett gets hurt or TJ Watt gets hurt, both of these teams are cooked. Bengals proved last year, even if their best player in Joe Burrow gets hurt, they can at least flirt with 500. And then the Ravens have also done that a couple times. So, yeah, I just don't see Mike Tomlin finishing under 500, I guess, is really my only thing. So,
because it hasn't happened yet.
Because it hasn't happened
never
yet.
happens until it happens.
You're right.
And I think that's this year.
That wow. Are you Nostradamus with that? That's some very intellectual thinking. Yeah. I don't know. I hope the Steelers have a decent season, but they don't look good. Next we got the New Jersey Jets. Next we got the New York, New Jersey Jets. Obviously last year their season ended in the first drive of the year when Aaron Rodgers went down with Achilles tear. And now Aaron Rodgers looks to not do that again. So I've got them as playoff contenders, which feels crazier and crazier by the day with this Hassan Reddick drama. I don't feel confident in that anymore. I really don't. They're probably close to on the fringe, and I think I'm gonna change that on the spot right now. 2 weeks ago, maybe even one, I probably have them in the second tier at playoff contenders. But shit, more and 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 more drama just keeps coming out. And at this point, I don't know if Robert Saleh's the right guy for the job up there in New York, because he cannot get he cannot keep his shit together. Cannot keep anything in house. Everything is out everywhere.
Anytime he's got a chance to, sort of not
It's
make
just
something
bad.
a big deal, he makes it a big deal.
He makes it a huge deal. Yeah, absolutely. He is terrible when it comes to what's the word, when you try to lessen the tension in a situation.
Be a common sense head coach.
Sure.
Great D coordinator, but he's blows way out of proportion as compared to what they need to be.
He's not good at fucking shit. What's the word?
Extinguishing the fires.
That works too.
He's pumping those bellows. He's not using that fire extinguisher or that fire blanket. He's
he's
pumping those bellows.
He's like
fanning the flames.
That's what Robert Saleh does with the Jets.
Yeah.
He's not good at diffusing the situation. That's the word I was looking for. He's not very good at diffusing the situation. So, I think I've got them all on the fringe because they've got all the talent to make the playoffs. That defense especially is really, really, really good. If Aaron Rodgers, wants to be there, he's going to be really, really, really good. Garrett Wilson, really, really, really good. Breece Hall, really, really, really good. That offensive line is hopefully going to be really, really, really better than it's been. Because I can't say it's going to be really good, but maybe it's going to be better. So yeah, I've got them on the fringe, talent alone. But the drama, it's basically the only reason I don't have them in playoff contender.
I could see a scenario where this team is chasing 500 and there are questions of, does Saleh get fired before the end of the season?
Yep.
This team.
I could see that.
I could see a situation where they are looking towards next season and Saleh is gone and there's just no hope. It's utter chaos and they're shipping players out. I can see where they are. I don't really see them as a Super Bowl contender. I could see them as playoff contenders, going out maybe winning a game, a wild card game. But I think the most likely option is they're just kind of the fringe team, wins, 3/4 of the games, not really super impressive, and I think almost unless they make a deep playoff run, I think you got to put Saul in the hot seat, for being honest.
Yeah, he has not been good. And if they don't make the playoffs, he's definitely gone, I think. If they don't make the playoffs, does Aaron Rodgers retire or does he go somewhere else?
I don't think he can go anywhere else.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, where else would he? I don't see a situation where he could go that would.
Minnesota, following his mentor's footsteps.
I mean, I guess. That was the one place that popped into my mind.
I was kidding, but honestly, with McCarthy's recovery and shit, maybe. Out of spite too, he'd do that just out of spite. It would just be are the Vikings.
I don't think he'd do that out of spite.
Oh, I think he would. I just don't think the Vikings would take him.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I digress. Next, we got the New England Patriots, who are in the midst of a long-term rebuild with no end in sight. And that's what you get for winning 6 Super Bowls in 2 decades. Sorry. That's just shit happens. But, yeah, I've got them in planning for next season. I don't really see any hope for them this year. Outside of maybe Drake May getting a few snaps and maybe some individual growth there. But, yeah, the Patriots, in my opinion, bottom 5 team in the league. Maybe even bottom 2. So.
Yeah, like a mountain of questions at quarterback. I mean,
they're going for
Jalen
set, I think. I think it's
good. That's a mistake, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's punting on the season.
Pretty much.
For sure. I don't know that you'd get much better results with Drake May or Joe Milton, but
be more fun.
At least you'd kind of see and maybe get some experience under the belt, but I don't see any way forward with Brissett. So, definitely planning for next season.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the worst team in the AFC this year. I'd be surprised if they win more than 4 games. And that may be even pushing it. Because they've got a hell of a division here with the Buffalo Bills up next. Bills last season were able to come back and win the division after starting off pretty slow, and the Dolphins looked like they had it all sewed up, but the Dolphins choked and the Bills took advantage. Bills were looking to take advantage once again. However, a few more hurdles to overcome. You lose Stephon Diggs in the offseason, obviously. You lose Gabe Davis in the offseason, obviously. Keon Coleman comes to town. Curtis Samuel comes to town. So, a lot of new faces. Not proven talent in Keon Coleman quite yet. Curtis Samuel never cracked 700 yards, I don't think. So, definitely taking a step back as far as pass catchers go. Dalton Kincaid hopefully takes a step forward this year. But then you get hit with a devastating blow. The heart and soul of your defense, Matt Milano, once again, going down with injury. Looks like he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. And without him, I just don't see how that defense is going to be up to snuff. Already a lot of question marks around that secondary. Losing basically everybody in that secondary. So, I've got the Bills as playoff contenders because of Josh Allen. But I think it's shaping up to be another year of losing in the playoff. Not to Patrick Mahomes, but to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, this might have to be like a Mahomes first year starting type of team where it's all offense. Because they lost a lot on defense. A lot.
Yeah, especially
a
with
lot of important players that have been there for a long time too. So I think they'll be good because of their offense, because of Josh Allen, because of James Cook, because of Dalton Kincaid. But man, that defense could struggle.
Yep. New safeties, new corners, new linebacker now. I'm so that Matt Milano news has to hurt. I'm sure that stung for Bills fans. But second best quarterback in the league. Right there with, either him or Burrow. Next we got the Miami Dolphins. Last year the Dolphins choked away their opportunity at winning the Last year the Dolphins choked away their opportunity at winning the AFC East After starting the season off strong, they struggled down the stretch due to injury and cold weather and fatigue, perhaps. And we're just limped to the playoffs as a 6 seed. Lost to the Chiefs in the first round in record low temps. I think the regular season goes fairly similar for Miami. And then I think the postseason goes exactly the same for Miami, where they get the 6th seed and lose to the Chiefs in the first round at Arrowhead Stadium. But you made the playoffs, at least. And I think your record-wise, you're going to be pretty good. I think I had you at 11-6. I think the difference is going to be you winning the division and losing the division. I just think by not having that home playoff game in round 1, once again, I think the cold weather is going to end up kind of being a factor. And you're playing in Kansas City or Buffalo or Baltimore or Cincinnati. You better hope it's Houston you're playing. Because if it's not, it's going to be fucking cold. So I've got you in playoff contenders. But yeah, I don't see you making a deep run this year.
Offense looks real good, real explosive. Defense got some big names, some good players there. That defense kind of old.
It is very old.
I'd worry about a similar problem as that last season where it was just like a rotating door of defensive players.
That secondary specifically is ancient.
Yeah. Calais Campbell, he's not a young fella.
Oh my goodness, he's like 40.
Yeah. So that's my worry is on the defensive side of the ball. If they can stay healthy, I could see them competing for a Super Bowl. I don't see them staying healthy, so I'm going to put them in playoff contender.
Yeah, I mean, you bring in Kendall Fuller, who's, I think, over the age of 30 now. You bring in Jordan Poyer, who's definitely over the age of 30 now, to pair with Jalen Ramsey, who's over the age of 30 now. So, yeah, really old fucking team on the defensive side of the football. Hopefully they can stay healthy, because that's, like you said, a problem they've had for numerous years now. And instead of addressing that, they seem to just add fuel to the fire. Next, we got the first NFC team. We got the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, last year, making it all the way to the Super Bowl before falling up short to the greatest team in NFL history, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I think they're going to be right up there amongst the top of the mix once again. I think they probably, flirt with the Super Bowl once again. And I think I even have them. Yes, I do. I have it as a Super Bowl rematch this year. So I've actually got them making the Super Bowl once again, because they have downright the best roster in the NFL. Maybe NFL history, possibly. Like honestly. But definitely right now, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk for now. Who the fuck knows what happens there? George Kittle, Trent Williams, that offensive line, Brock Purdy, who's I'm being told is a god now, Dre Greenlaw, Travarius Ward, I could go on and on. Eric Armstead, right? Or does he leave? He left. He may have left now. He might have left. But regardless, great fucking team. Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much else for me to say. Stacked on both sides of the ball. So, Super Bowl contenders.
Let's go with the Arizona Cardinals. Been a pretty disappointing run with Kyler Murray, in my opinion. Yet to make the playoffs, I believe. And I think he's only had one winning season, maybe two. Injury, large part of that, sure. But he's been in the league for a good while now, and I feel like we've got to start seeing some sort of success as a team, he keeps seemingly getting away with, them just starting the rebuild over and over and over and over again. So that's fortunate for him. But I think at some point, luck's going to run out, and he's going to have to, put up or shut up. And I don't necessarily think this is the year for that, unfortunately. I've got him chasing 500 probably. Probably a floor of like 5 wins, but I think their ceiling may be as high as 9. I think, really tough division as well with the Rams and the 49ers and maybe even the Seahawks being competitive. Not a whole lot to work with either. I know James Conner's put up a couple decent seasons there in Arizona. You brought in rookie wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. as well as signing Zay Jones out of Jacksonville. But that defense is bad. Like really, really, really bad. So unless that unit just completely flips the switch, I don't see there being a whole lot of success for y'all right now.
Yeah, and then kind of when you ask Kyler to do all the things with none of the players, I don't think it necessarily is fair to him. But you got Marvin Harrison this year. Trey McBride looked good last year.
He's fun.
So I think that this should be a step in the right direction. I agree with chasing 500. But I think ultimately they're looking, towards the free agency and in the draft to get some more pieces for Kyler.
Yeah. So I think record-wise, chasing 500 is right. But mentality-wise, they're probably in the planning for next season, like you said. Like, they're already looking ahead. They know that this isn't their year. They're kind of punting on the season in a way, but they want to make sure they get that cohesion and experience together with Murray and those new weapons that they've gotten him. Hopefully, Darius Robinson can do some pretty neat stuff on the defensive side of the football, maybe playing multiple positions there on the defensive line, little edge, little D tackle, who really knows. But yeah, I just probably not fighting for the playoffs. Next we got the Seattle Seahawks, a team that's in a weird spot. I don't really know how to properly explain the position that Seattle's in. They're just kind of in limbo right now. Their quarterback's not good enough to be, playoff Super Bowl contenders. He's not bad enough to be tanking. Your coach is, maybe your new coach is going to be the reason you play above your potential expectations, whatever. But yeah, just a really weird spot. Not a young team, but not like a super old team. Just right in the middle of like every category you imagine. That's the Seahawks, just right there in the middle. And I think that's an appropriate place to have them on the tier list, because I could see if everything goes right like it did a couple years ago for Geno Smith, they could maybe make the playoffs. I could also see if everything goes wrong like it did last year for Geno Smith, they could be the worst team in the division. I don't really know. So I'm going to put them on the fringe.
Worse than the Cardinals?
This year, yeah, they could be worse than the Cardinals this year. I think so. Yeah.
I don't see it.
I don't know. That defense is.
I think this offense will be too good for them to be the worst team in the division.
I see where you're coming from. I just don't know if Arizona's is going to be that much worse than Seattle's, because I think they have I like Arizona's quarterback more. They don't have quite the weapons that Seattle has, especially in the wide receiver room.
They don't have anywhere near the weapons that Seattle has.
No. But Kyler Murray, can absolve a lot of that. So, Geno Smith is like Alex Smith. It works. Maybe they're related. Probably not for obvious reasons, but yeah, I don't know. Besides the point, I think Seattle's like a middle of the road team at best. So yeah, that's why I'll have them on the fringe.
Yeah, I'd say on the fringe.
Now that is their floor, I was saying, being worse than the Cardinals. So that would assume they hit their floor, Cardinals hit their ceiling, or something like that.
Yeah, I think it'd take a lot for them to be worse than the Cardinals this year. I think I said this in one of our other record prediction videos. I think this could be a really fun offense to watch.
You did.
A, because they're good, and B, because they have to score a lot of points, because I'm not sold on this defense. So, I agree with you. Fringe team. They'll be fighting probably with the Rams for wild card spot.
Well, let's talk about the Rams. Because I don't think them and the Seahawks...
Have you fallen out of love?
Of the Rams? Absolutely not. But you've always been a Rams hater. I remember last year when we did stuff with the NFC West, you were always Seahawks over Rams. And I was always Rams over Seahawks. So I guess the trend continues because I think the Rams are going to be one of the... not the best teams in the NFC. I think they could comfortably win a wild card seed. I've got them as the 6th seed, at least. Finishing probably with 11 wins, I'd imagine. Something like that. If I can ever find it. Yeah. Yeah, I've got them as the 6th seed, winning 11 games. So, I mean, I'm really high on the Rams. I love Matt Stafford, though. I think that receiver core is going to be insane, assuming Cooper Kupp can stay healthy. You got Kupp, Puka Nacua,
And Stafford.
Demarcus Robinson. And if Matt Stafford stays healthy, I really love their running back, whose name escapes me right now for some reason.
Kyren
Williams, thank you. I knew it was
or Blake Corum. Which one?
Kyren Williams. I also like Blake Corum, so I think having both of those is really, really cool. You lose Aaron Donald, man. I get that. I totally understand losing Aaron Donald. I think that's going to be a big blow. But, I mean, I think the offense is going to be better than it was last year. I think the defense does take a step back, obviously, but Braden Fisk and Jared Verse should be, serviceable at worst on the D-line. I'm really high on this Rams team, and I've got them personally as playoff contenders.
I mean, I think they'll be fighting for a playoff spot, similar to the Seahawks. Kind of like last year. They were... I mean, they beat
but that was
the Seahawks both times, but they were fairly similar teams last year. So, again, I agree with you. I would probably put them on the fringe just because they're similar caliber as those teams.
Okay.
Don't necessarily expect a deep playoff run, but I wouldn't be surprised if they, won a wild card game.
I mean, the other way I'm kind of looking at it, man. They almost beat the Lions last year. The Lions should have beat the Niners. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said earlier, I've always been higher on the Rams than you have. You've always been higher than the Seahawks than we have. So it'll be fun to see how that kind of shakes out this year. That may be our little rivalry for the season. Who knows? Because last year it was Baker. Speaking of Baker, look at that segue. Moving on to the
I never disagree with you. I just
Buccaneers.
wasn't sucking his dick like you
the
were.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers looking to win their 2nd straight NFC South title. Well, 3rd straight maybe, 4th straight, 5th straight. Since Tom Brady took over, straight South title. Because I forget that he was there right before Baker all the time. Yeah, I think they'll be on the fringe. I got the Falcons winning the division with the addition of Kirk Cousins. I think last year, I love Baker Mayfield, don't get me wrong. But I do think last year was a little bit of a fluke, kind of. And by fluke, I mean the only reason they won the division is because the rest of it was so fucking bad. I mean, they only had to win 9 games. I think the Falcons win 11 this year. Tampa Bay might win 9 games again, but that doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs if Atlanta wins 11. So I've got them on the fringe. I could see them possibly sneaking out with a division title if Kirk Cousins, doesn't exactly fill the hole that Atlanta hopes he will. So, even though they have a giant Penix sitting on the bench that they could easily plug into that hole. No, oh, okay. But yeah, I got the. Really? That didn't get you? Buccaneers on the fringe. You didn't hear me? So they've got a giant Penix to.
About Penix.
I said they have a giant Penix to fill that hole.
I get it.
Okay.
You're relating his name to a phallus.
Yes, thank you.
I think if Michael Penix is on the Bucks, then you've got a real exciting team there.
I agree.
Because Baker, don't get me wrong, solid game manager quarterback. Not the most exciting guy to watch. And this receiving core could be really good. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, who, if he plays anything like he did in college, will be an absolute weapon.
Cade Otton.
Cade Otton, yep. Again, kind of an old defense.
Yeah.
Oh.
Antoine Woodfield's cool.
But, yes, yeah. Lost Devin White, though. Kept Levante David. That's good. But, yeah, I'd say I agree with you that they'll probably be second behind the Falcons in their division and probably be a fringe team for the playoffs.
Yeah. I can see him win 8. I mean, my 7th seed in the NFC wins 9 games. I just, it's not the Bucks. So maybe they win 9 and sneak in as the 7th seed, but it's gonna be tough to win that division with Kirk Cousins coming to town. Next we got the New Orleans Saints, who, if you watched if you're one of the 25 people that watched our NFC South video, you know that for some ungodly reason I am very low on the Saints this year, and I'm low on the Saints, but I don't know why I'm this low on the Saints. I had them winning 3 games, which is just absurd. That's just wrong. That's not going to happen.
There's no way.
There's no way they only win 3 games, right? So I'll put them in chasing 500 because
they play the Panthers twice.
They play the Panthers twice, and I only ever won in 1. I'll put them in chasing 500 because there's no way they're already in planning. Well, they might literally already be planning for next season, but I don't think they belong on that tier.
Yeah, chasing 500. I don't think they're necessarily expected to make a push for the playoffs. That division kind of stinks, so wouldn't be surprised if somehow they manage to find their way in winning the division somehow.
Paying Derek Carr a lot of money to suck.
I would put them at third in the division and chasing 500.
Yeah, I agree. The Carolina Panthers coming off one of the worst seasons I have ever seen in my entire life. And could be going into...
We saw the 0-16 Browns.
And we saw the 0-16 Lions and the 0-16 Browns. And this was right up there, man. And unfortunately, I think this year could be right up there again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Carolina. I'm so sorry. You're obviously already planning for next season. That's no shock to you. I don't know if you win more than another game or two. Which going 2 years and only winning 3 total games would just be brutal. Ah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, they're just in full rebuild mode, and it sucks to be a fan of that position. I mean, Xavier Legette should be fun to watch.
He already got hurt.
It'll be fun to watch stand on the sideline.
Let me double check, but I think you already got it.
He can't be out for the season, right?
No,
He's not out for the season.
Lower leg
Well, it'll be fun
injury.
to watch it at some point.
His MRI cleared him of a fracture. So that's good. That's good.
He's fine. Yeah, I mean, probably planning for next season because I'd say like 4 games. I don't really see them chasing 500. I'd say like 4 or 5 wins, but
yeah, they were worried.
really tough season for the Panthers.
They were worried he broke his foot. He did not, thankfully, but they were worried he broke his foot, which would have just been
Icing on the cake.
Yeah, it would have just been awful. So at least that didn't happen. Next, we got the Atlanta Falcons. A little bit of a brighter future here for the Falcons as they, brought in 2 new quarterbacks this offseason, similar to the Steelers. But instead, they signed the biggest free agency contract of the offseason, and then drafted the second oldest quarterback in the draft, who was considered to be an instant starter and will now have to sit for at least 2 seasons, probably. But they might make the playoffs, so that's cool. Kirk Cousins comes to town and, hopefully can unlock Kyle Pitts, Drake London's potential. Bijan Robinson maybe gets a little bit more room to run. Tyler Algier as well. And yeah, I think the Falcons are. I think they should be playoff contenders. They also made a couple additions to the defense, bringing in Justin Simmons at safety, trading for Matthew Judon out of New England, who's coming off of the worst season of his career. But I digress. Yeah, I've got them as playoff contenders. I think I've got them. No, I've got them on the fringe. Yeah, I was looking at those teams in the second tier. They're not up to that. They're just not. So, I think on the fringe is where they belong.
Too much unproven talent there at those skill positions, I think, to kind of throw them in there with those playoff contender teams.
It feels like
I do think they'll win their division.
Yeah, it feels like the Dolphins like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. And then again, kind of a lot of questions on that defensive side of the ball. Some good names there, but haven't seen it all put together yet.
Yeah. Still scratching my head on that Penix decision, man. I just don't.
Why win now when you can win later?
I think most of the frustration comes from the fact that I just wanted to see the dude play, and we're not going to get to for at least a year, if not 2.
I'm glad he doesn't get to play with the Raiders.
That's true. That is true. And not seeing him carve up the Chiefs twice a year is nice. So, let's get the Chicago Bears. Chicago. Obviously bringing in Go Bears. Obviously bringing in the cream of the crop in this draft, Caleb Williams, who is Now their starting quarterback for the foreseeable future also traded for Keenan Allen and drafted Roma Dunze to fill out that wide receiver room that is just stacked with talent now. You also have Cole Kmet at tight end. You have brought in DeAndre Swift to complement Khalil Herbert in the running back position. And that defense looks also improved. I've got you on the fringe, actually, I think. Right? I think. Yeah. Yeah, screw it. I'm going on the fringe with the Chicago Bears. I really am. I think if everything goes right for them, and that would include things going wrong for Detroit and Green Bay, I think they could make the playoffs. But they need a lot of help. It's not just them. Expecting a lot out of Caleb Williams to do that in his first year starting in the NFL. Probably not going to happen. Chasing 500 is probably where they should be. But I've got enough confidence in the talent on that offensive side of the football that I'm willing to put them.
I see the Bears. I don't see them. I haven't been chasing 500.
Yeah.
I think Caleb Williams shows a lot of flashes of being the guy there in Chicago. I could also see him throwing a lot of picks and this kind of being a learning curve season for him.
Yeah.
That being said, they are set up well for the future. They got a lot of good offensive talent there. And that defense isn't too shabby either. So I have them in chasing 500 purely because the jump to the NFL, specifically for the quarterback, is so tough.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd probably jump the gun with the on the fringe, but that's just how much
You never jump the gun.
No, I'm never premature on everything, especially in bed. But yeah, I think chasing 500 is probably correct. So even though I want to do on the fringe so bad, just to make Caleb Williams haters mad.
Throw him up there.
Next, we got the Detroit Lions. Didn't take much convincing. Next, we got the Detroit Lions. Last year, won the division and went on to play in the NFC Championship game where they led all the way up until halftime and then just felt like handing it over to the San Francisco 49ers because they hate all of us. But I think it was a really good step forward for the Lions franchise. And I expect them to build off of that. And I mean, shit, man. They were half a football from making the Super Bowl last year. I think it's only fair that they're in the Super Bowl contender spot because they're right there, man. I wanted them to make it so bad. They were right there.
I think they're just playoff contenders. I mean, Jared Goff's good. I don't think he's, anything special. I think teams sort of figure out this offense this year and kind of game plan for Dan Campbell to be super aggressive and maybe come a little bit more prepared than they did last year. So I think there's a slight step back, maybe probably not a massive one, but I don't think the Lions are Super Bowl contenders.
I think their defense is improved. Running back should be as good, if not better. Offensive line should be as good, if not better. It's really just that Jameson Williams. Is Jameson Williams going to be able to be a true number 2 receiver or not? Is kind of The only thing holding me back from saying they're the best team in the NFC, well, I mean, you got the Niners roster. I mean, I can't say that with my chest. But I do think the Lions have one of the best teams in the NFC, not named San Francisco. And yeah, I think they could easily make another run to the NFC Championship game, maybe even learn from their mistakes a little bit and win that game.
I agree they are one of the best teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
I don't think Jared Goff is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC.
No, he's probably not even top 10 in the NFL. So. Next, we got the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, the Vikings season was cut short when Kirk Cousins went down with injury. Had a little bit of resurgence with the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, stepping in late in the year, but that fizzled out quickly, and then they ended up just flipping back and forth between him and Nick Mullins. So, unfortunately, those quarterback woes continue into this year. As rookie QB, J.J. McCarthy, after looking stellar, probably the best rookie quarterback in week 1 of the preseason, ended up tearing his meniscus and is out for the year, which is just a damn shame. I think he was the only chance the Vikings had at being any sort of competitive this year. Relevant for sure. And now that Sam Darnold is all they have, I think they're planning for next season.
Yeah.
Which is a damn shame with that receiver room.
I think they're going to be massively hampered by quarterback play. And again, old defense.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a super good defense to begin with, and so I think it's unfortunately could be a tough year for the Vikings.
Yeah, and I honestly, I really do believe that J.J. McCarthy would have been better. They would have had a better outcome. They would have had a better outcome with J.J. McCarthy if he started all 17 games than if Sam Darnold started all 17 games. I feel very, very confident about that. Next week. Do what? Never know? Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah. Well, we will next year. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, who were able to sneak into the playoffs as a 7th seed last year and became the first team in NFL history to became the first team in NFL history to win a playoff game as a 7th seed, knocking off the woeful Dallas Cowboys, who always just love to choke and choke and choke and choke. So they couldn't have gotten a better matchup in round 1. This year, looking to build off that. Jordan Love looking to build off of a really strong finish to the season last year, where he just seemingly got more comfortable as the year went on. And I think this is probably my hottest take. No, I take it back. No, playoff contender. I was about to do something crazy, Aaron. I was about to do something lunatic. Like I was about to be a lunatic.
You gonna throw them in Super Bowl contender?
I was gonna be just downright insane for a second, but I controlled myself. Playoff contender. I have too much affinity for, I too much of a personal bias for that team, because I love them. They're fun. Playoff contender.
I wouldn't necessarily hate it. That's a very talented offensive side of the ball.
But they're young and improving.
Could have probably, I would venture to guess, an improved run game, at least as far as health goes. I'd expect Josh Jacobs to play a little bit more than Aaron Jones. Good young receivers. Luke Musgrave showed promise last year as well. I'm not too well versed in their defense. I know Jared Alexander's a lockdown cornerback when they decide to put him on another team's number one. But so I'd say that the question marks come from that defensive side of the ball. But I think they've showed a lot of promise. But I would comfortably put them in playoff contenders.
So from what I've heard, old DC Joe Barry is a big reason the defense wasn't very good. At least that's what Packers fans say. It helps bringing in Xavier McKinney to hopefully shore up that defensive secondary. That safety position was a big weak spot for them. Was it Peyton Wilson or Edgerrin Cooper that they got? I know they got a linebacker. Oh, jeez.
Edgerrin Cooper.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a big improvement. Linebacker was a spot that they hurt at last year. Didn't they also get Tyron Hopper, or am I wrong on that?
They did.
They did, yeah. So could be an interesting little project there at the linebacker position as well with Cooper. So Cooper and Hopper. So yeah, I mean, I think the defense should be improved. Like you said, I'm not super knowledgeable on everything that's going on over on that side of the football, but I do know Joe Barry was a big reason that it was as bad as it was. So, or at least that's what Packers fans say. So, hopefully with him out, they'll be better. But next we got the Washington Commanders, who starting rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels this year, officially announced recently. I believe outside of Caleb Williams, he has been the only rookie that has been officially dubbed the starting quarterback opening week. I could be wrong. Maybe Bo Nix was also touted that. But yeah, I mean, really new team. A lot of new faces that were not there last year, including the head coach, including the starting quarterback, including about half of, if not all of the defense, and a good chunk of that offensive line as well. You lost your second, maybe third receiver in Curtis Samuel. I heard weird stuff about Jahan Dotson not being liked amongst the coaches, so maybe he's on his way out as well, which would just surprise me. But I saw a report the other day that indicated he might be number 4 on the depth chart, which is just lunacy to me. But I read it somewhere, I swear, that he may be traded, which I just don't. I do not think that's happening, but I swear I read that somewhere. But yeah, I think they're planning for next season. I don't know that they really have a whole lot of expectations going into this year with the new regime and the new quarterback. Probably just looking to, kind of take that first step in this new version of the rebuild that they've been continuously on since, Hitler was killed. So yeah, planning for next season.
Yeah, I think he kind of has a similar. He's in a similar sort of career path that I see as Caleb Williams, where he shows some flashes this year, but ultimately it's not enough to win them a lot of games. Doesn't go into as good of a situation as Caleb Williams, seemingly.
No, at least doesn't look.
So I would agree that they're probably looking forward to next season, but he could be really good. He could be really good.
Yeah, I know he's your favorite in this draft class out of all the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we got the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, they're going to be okay in the regular season, maybe even good. A lot of questions right now around that roster and coaching staff. Obviously, with Mike McCarthy also being in owner. And yeah, that whole franchise is just a disaster. Yeah, no, the whole fucking team. I don't know what the hell is going on with the Dallas Cowboys. They don't have any priorities apparently at all. Just none. They have no priorities. There is no priority for anything ever. because there was
Zeke Elliott was a priority.
Yeah, apparently bringing back Zeke was a priority, but outside of that, they had no priority of improving the team through free agency, had no priority of improving the team through the NFL draft, had no priority of improving the team through extensions with CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy. Absolutely none. They have no priority. Jerry Jones hates the team, apparently. He hates football. I've got him on the fringe, but gosh damn it, I feel bad for Cowboys fans, which is weird. No one should feel bad for Cowboys fans ever. But right now, I feel bad for Cowboys fans.
So, we've talked about Mike McCarthy's contract situation, Dak Prescott's contract situation, CD's contract situation. What if Mike's not back for sure? Jerry already knows this, and just kind of kicking the ball along, and he's waiting for the opportune moment to fire Mike and bring in one of the greatest head coach / GMs ever, in Bill Belichick.
Why not this offseason? You had the perfect reason to fire him. Oh, second seed of all time to lose first round of playoffs. Boom, out the door. Get the fuck out of here. You don't? I don't get it. I don't think Jerry Jones knows what he wants to do. I think he just keeps punting the ball down the field until he's forced to make a decision, and then at the last second he's going to be like, fuck it, give him the money.
Yeah, this franchise seems to be confused as to what it wants to do with the future, which makes me happy because I don't like the Cowboys one bit. Yeah, they're probably they're a playoff contender because they've got a bunch of good talent. But we all know what happens once the playoffs come around.
Yeah. I'll put them there just because, like you said, they've got the talent that would indicate they have the talent that would indicate they belong in that tier.
Well, they're not to put it all together.
Yeah. Especially when they're in the postseason. That's a different question. Next, we have one of the worst franchises in the NFL right now. The New York Giants. Planning for next season. They need a new quarterback. Need a new quarterback. Need a new running back now. Need some more wide receivers. New offensive line. Maybe even a couple new defensive pieces. Head coach. Owner. Maybe. They need to know everything. The Giants are a dumpster fire ever since they signed Daniel Jones to that fat contract extension that is just aging worse and worse by the day, it seems. Although he did grow out a really, really cool beard that makes him look really, really, really sexy. But outside of the extra cool points that he gets for the facial hair, yeah, the Giants are bad. I don't see them winning more than 4 or 5 games, and I think I even predicted that they win only 2. So, planning for next season.
Yeah, they're gonna stink, and it's all Daniel Jones's fault. / maybe Drew Lock's fault. I don't see a lot of good quarterback play coming from New York, and it sucks because I would really like to see what that receiver room could do with a good quarterback.
Hey, Drew Lock maybe is a good quarterback.
I don't think they'll get the chance.
Yeah, it's a shame for Malik Neighbors having to go to a franchise with nobody throwing the football after, coming off of one of the greatest seasons in college history.
He'd be better off throwing himself the ball.
At this point, yeah, probably. Maybe even bringing up in Jaden Daniels back up from LSU. And finally wrapping up our tier list here with the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that came out the gates last season on fire. I believe they were the last team in the NFL to be undefeated last season, before a very specific ejection and banishment to head of security cost them not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 out of their last 6 games were L's because their head of security couldn't be there to secure. And they limped to the playoffs, lost to the Buccaneers in a game that they should have easily won, given the talent discrepancies between the two sides. I think this year's going to be different. Well, I mean, it's going to start off the same. I think they're going to start off incredible, and I think instead of last year, they're going to finish incredible, and then they're going to go into the playoffs as an incredible team, and then maybe even make some noise there as well. I've got them as Super Bowl contenders. I think they're them or the Lions or the Packers. Well, because I'm unnecessarily high on the Packers, but outside the Packers and my delusion there, they are right up there amongst the top of the NFC with the Lions and the Niners. So I got the Eagles as Super Bowl contenders. Yeah, I think they could have made the Super Bowl again last year if things would have went a little bit different in the second half of the season. All jokes aside, I do think there was a little bit of some drama that may have stirred up between and this is completely, I want to preface this, completely my just guessing. I have no, outside of just how I perceive it on TV, I have no evidence to back this up, but I think Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni.
You don't think Jalen Hurts likes Nick Sirianni?
I think Hurts and Sirianni hate each other. I really do. Or at least Hurts hates Sirianni. I think Sirianni loves Hurts. I don't think Hurts likes Sirianni.
Yeah, I think I've heard that somewhere as well. Which, is unfortunate, because this offense, moving on all cylinders, could be absolutely disgusting.
What's Saquon at it? Yeah, no.
Yeah, I agree. Super Bowl contenders. Saquon, AJ, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts. That skill position group is just out of this world, and the Georgia defense that they've drafted is really good as well.
Yeah,
so.
the entire fucking unit. Yeah,
and Dom got a promotion.
He did. So, and no more getting ejected for him. I don't think he's around for the long haul. That black magic that the Eagles were crafting with last year is going to be prevalent in Citizens Bank Arena once again. Is that their fucking stadium there? Fiduciary Field.
I don't think it's fiduciary.
Citizens. I think it just named their Phillies ballpark. Or no, I definitely just named the Sixers arena. No, never mind. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
It's not fiduciary, whatever.
Fiduciary Field? You don't think so? Eagles Stadium name. Lincoln Financial Field. I knew it started with an F. So here we have our NFL tier list rankings. Teams we think are going to be in the Super Bowl, all the way down to the teams that we think should already be planning for next season. In the Super Bowl contenders, we think that the Chiefs 49ers, Ravens, and Eagles should all have a pretty good shot at making the big game this year. Some other teams that may be just on the outskirts, but also maybe have an outside chance of making the Super Bowl. Texans, Bengals, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Packers, Cowboys. Teams we think are on the fringe of playoff contention. Jaguars, Browns, Jets, Seahawks, Rams, Bucks, Falcons, and Bears. Teams we think are going to be just under 500, kind of fighting for a 9-8 record. Colts, Titans, Steelers, Cardinals, and Saints. And the teams we think that should already be taking a look at that 2024 NFL Draft, already planning for next season. Basically the entire AFC West outside the Chiefs, in the Raiders, Broncos, and Chargers, as well as the Patriots, Panthers, Vikings, Commanders, Giants. So yeah.
It feels like a lot of teams would be down there.
Well, there's a lot of really bad teams in the NFL right now, Aaron. But if you disagree with any of these opinions, maybe you're a fan of one of these teams in the AFC West, and you just want to tell us off, because obviously we have a bias. As you can see.
I don't know what you're talking about. No bias here.
Against you guys. If you're Patriots fans, we also just hate you. But feel a little bad for you right now. But at the
I don't
same
hate
time,
the Patriots.
I used to. You maybe not now. We used to.
I hated the player.
Panthers, we feel so bad. Gosh, we just sorrow emanates from every pore and orifice. So, but yeah, unless you got anything else, Aaron, I think that'll do it for this episode of the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Soderberg. We're all here with the coach today, Aaron. What's about Aaron?
Bye.
All right. Please make sure to comment down below if you disagree with any of our opinions. Let us know what teams you think are going to be in the Super Bowl, what teams you think are going to be tanking for that number 1 pick overall. Make sure to like and subscribe if you made it this far into the video. And without further ado, deuces. Have a good day.